Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, I feel like we need to start the show with an apology. I was planning on apologizing for doing another year of bold prediction shows, and then I saw on Twitter a clip of an ESPN segment where Desmond Howard talked about the fact that if everything went, if something went badly for Ohio State this year, it would be okay because they could fire Ryan Day and just slide Chip Kelly right in there. So I'm not sure if I'd like to apologize to us for suggesting that this was the stupidest thing ever broadcast, or if we should apologize to Desmond Howard for trying to take his crown. But Tony, the king stay the king. The stupidest thing on TV or stupidest thing in broadcast remains the same here in the year of our Lord 2024.
Well, and you didn't need a bold prediction to go ahead and throw out the belief that Desmond was going to say something that was easily scoffed at and dismissed. But he is incapable of logic and just being balanced with when it comes to Ohio State, as I think we've seen. And so yes, I saw that as well, and I shook my head. I refrained from posting on social media. I'm trying to be a better person. Tom, you did not have that same refrain because that is not one of your goals this year, and which is probably leads perfectly into the first bold prediction show of the year. Tom has no intention of being a good person, as evidenced by his tweets about and comments about Desmond Howard. But that's neither here nor there, Tom. We've got a super chat.
We do have a super chat from Wayne Taylor. We're going to start with this one where he says, now that should help with the start of the show. And normally when you have a super chat, it's, well, we've got to read the comment that the person wrote. There was a previous comment that he wrote that I think he was sort of setting up here. I'm not sure I feel compelled to read this, but I guess technically by the rules, this is like the 17 and 34 of these live shows. If you send us a super chat, we have to read. Well, okay, here we go. Wayne Taylor says, getting ready for the best bold prediction show of the year. Tony, please don't let Tom off the hook with some of his bold choices. Maybe you're trying to be the civil one in this show.
Well, obviously I am trying to be the civil one in this show, and it's not a matter of letting Tom off the hook. It's a matter of I eventually want to go do something else today and every day when we're doing this, because I could put up more of a fight, but it's like I've got honey-do list, I've got chores, I've got to go do this, I've got to go do that. Tom has nothing to do. He will just sit there. He will lollygag, he will stonewall, whatever it takes for him to get his, I think Ohio State will average 4 yards a carry in this game. And it's like, I don't have the patience for it. I've got other things to do, and Tom does not. So he can just, I don't need to tell you guys this. You guys all know this.
Well, we got to start the year with the standard proclamation that I will make, that I believe I've made in previous years. If you ever think that something I say is insufficiently bold, by all means, you feel free to take it and present it as your own and show everyone how insufficiently bold it is. I am always willing to back up my bold predictions by allowing you to take them and use them as your own. If you feel that I am trying to sort of get around things by, doing something that is insufficiently bold simply to pad my stats don't need to be padded, Tony. We have years of track record that show us this.
Tom,
you feel free to take something if you feel I am trying to get one over on you and or the audience.
No, Tom, I would never. This is like, say, the Ford Motor Company making fun of the Cybertruck, and Elon Musk be going like, by all means, have the Cybertruck. You try it. See if, no, I don't want your Cybertrucks, Tom. I'm going to go with my own bold predictions.
I'm sorry. Weren't you just saying you were trying to be civil, and now you're comparing me to the Cybertruck? Sir, you are fortunate that we are not doing this broadcast in person, or I would get a large glove and slap you across the face.
I will apologize to you for that. Nobody deserves that. Tom, let's get the show started and go ahead, and you guys, we welcome your own bold predictions. We welcome, of course, your super chats and all of that good stuff. Since I won the spring game bold predictions, if I recall correctly, and I may not, should I go first?
By all means, yes, you go ahead and go first.
I feel like we should just retitle this show 14 bold predictions about Jeremiah Smith, because I'm just gonna go and throw this one out there that I've been saying all along. And since it's never happened before, it has to be bold. Jeremiah Smith will be the first freshman in Ohio State history to have 1,000 yards receiving in a season. Chris Carter, the current record holder, at 800 or 648 yards. And so I'm saying this is almost double that, Tom. 1,000 yards. What do you think?
So I have a related Jeremiah Smith, and I only did one. I only put one Jeremiah Smith prediction in because I feel like you could just do 14 bold predictions for Jeremiah Smith. And Tony, I think a lot of people would click on that, and that's okay. This is actually going to be, it could be a 1-pointer or a 2-pointer or a 3-pointer, depending on how you feel about it, because I can modify it and adjust things. So Jeremiah Smith sets the Ohio State freshman record for receptions, yards, and touchdowns. I feel like that could be either a 1 or a 2. Here's where it might get a little spicy. We could bump up the boldness by saying he does it within the first 13 games of the season. Because I don't want any thought that this is, well, they're playing more games than they ever have before. So, I'm willing to entertain the 1 or 2 conversation, but I feel like that might be a 3-pointer if we limit it to just the first 13 games of the season. But I'm willing to listen to your arguments.
Well, I would say for that to be anything more than a 1, it would have to be, Chris Carter did all of those things. He holds all of those records. And I'm assuming 1984, they played 12 games, including the bowl game. So to give Jeremiah Smith an extra game to beat those numbers, I don't think is sufficiently bold, certainly not to be more than a 1-pointer. However, all 3 of those things together, he should break all of those, and it's a crazy thing to say. But again, only one person has put those numbers up, so I'm going to hold you to the same rule I hold myself, and unfortunately. But I would say that in 13 games is a 1-pointer, because if you do one of those things, you're probably going to do the others,
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. And this is one of these things where, it's a parlay, and all 3 of these things, Tony, it's certainly these things, all 3 of these things are definitely going to happen. So my parlay will definitely hit. And casinos are large and shiny for a reason. And that is that you're asking different things to happen. What if I bump this down to 12 games? Because I did not think about the fact that they were only playing 12 games back in 1984.
Well, I still would we agree that none of those is worthy of a single point?
I would agree that none of those is worthy of a single point, especially if spread across the entirety of the Ohio State football schedule.
I would not go beyond 2. I don't even want to go to 2 because I believe he is going to do this. And if you believe something is going to happen, I don't know that you can go beyond 1.
Well, I believe Jeremiah Smith's going to have 1,000 yards receiving this year. So,
right. And that's why it's worth 1, maybe. Because I said you can't go beyond 1.
How about this? I will take these 3 and do 12 points in 12 games.
Yeah.
12 in 12 games. These 3 in 12 games for 2, but you have to have he hits 1,000 yards in. Feels like if we're really going to do apples to apples with Chris Carter, and he's going to do this incredible thing that Chris Carter almost half of that. Does he have to get his 1,000 yards in 12 games, or are you taking are you exploring the studio space and really just saying let's get the same thing on a per game basis as Chris Carter? Because by 16,
I would be okay with 13, but there's no reason to hold him to the same confinement as Chris Carter when Chris Carter put up 648 yards in 12 games. So okay. I think 13 games is plenty bold.
Yes, that would be bold. That's fine. So, all right. So am I getting 2 points for all 3 records in 12 games and you're getting 1 point for 1,000 yards in 13 games?
I don't feel that that's a 2-pointer. I honestly don't. Now we can go ahead and we can put it to the
let's circle back to
audience.
That. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fine. We'll put it to the audience. Jordan Kapler in the comments already saying this show needs a moderator. I've offered myself. Rest assured, I will not be biased and will hold Tom accountable. So, and Tony, once again, I will offer up to you, if you would like to take that for 2 points, I will allow you to take that for 2 points.
Okay, I'll take that for 2 points.
You'll take that for 2 points. All right, there you go. All right, that's fine. Then we don't need a moderator. Go ahead, take it.
Do you want my 2-pointer?
Let's see. I would like to listen to what your 2-pointer is before I blindly accept it.
Oh no,
because it feels to me a lot like something you could be changing right now. Like, Ohio State will reach the 17-yard line once, 2 points. Ohio State will have every play from the 17-yard line all season. I see.
I'm just typing it up. Here's one. Will Howard is a Heisman finalist, but not consensus first team All Big Ten.
I want absolutely nothing to do with the voters of the Big Ten awards. No, thank you.
Okay.
I could certainly see it happening just based on having watched the results of the All Big Ten awards in the past. I just don't want to try and predict that. Tony, some things are beyond mere mortals' ability to predict. So, all right. Well, we'll come back to that. Let's see. How about this? Nope. Ohio State allowed 11.2 points per game last year. They allowed 132 during the 2023 regular season. So 13.2 during the 2023 regular season. Mm-hmm. I am going to say they are under 10 points per game allowed for the regular season. So they allow less than 120 points in the first 12 games of the season this year. They were, one of the best defenses in school history. I think they're going to be even better than that, even though they do have to go play at Oregon, at Penn State, and Michigan.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that one because it's a ridiculous number. Not ridiculous that it can't possibly happen. It can happen, but if it does, it's like that's pretty darn good. And it's not something that you necessarily would expect. But also we know as you get into December and January, the PPG is going to go up. So I'm good with having this caveat there because I do think it's nice to have some defensive predictions here. And if we involve the playoffs, then they kind of get a little like, that's not bold at all. So it's best to confine some of these to the regular season to just really, really lock in that boldness. So I like that one. I'm okay with that one. Tom, do you need some time to think about your 2-pointers since I have taken it, or would you like to just throw it out there now? Or
we'll find something else later that we'll get there. I sort of have a list and we can sort of adjust things as needed. Frank Carone, Tony, I'm going to give him, we talked about maybe doing a 10-pointer. I will give him 100 points for this one. Frank Carone's prediction, my bold prediction is the Ohio State defense will not give up 1 point this year. If he does, I think if that happens, I think number one, that will probably be a pretty good season for Ohio State. Number two, I think Frank will win the bold predictions contest.
Well, Tom, here's the thing that you obviously do not think on the level that Frank and I do. When he says the defense will not give up 1 point, he means specifically there will be no moment where the defense just gives up 1 point because the special teams gives up the extra point. So this is where we've got you, Tom. He got you. You don't see on the same wavelength. You can't visualize the things that Frank and I can.
That's I did go see a Canadian Football League game this year, so I have seen a defense give up a 1 point play. So I guess it is theoretically possible if they change the rules. And I don't think the NCAA is changing rules right now. You can't tell me it won't happen. You can't definitively tell me it won't happen.
All right, and my turn for a 1-pointer here, Tom. Let me go with this one. Ohio State will average more yards per carry than the defense allows per pass attempt.
That's a very good one. You've got a couple of moving pieces there. Realistically, in your head, I'm going to allow this one, but I just want in your head, what is that number? If you allow 7 yards per pass attempt, that's not an incredible day. That's a good above average defensive performance. You're not rushing for 7 yards a carry as a team. Well, I don't know that when was the last time you saw a team average 7 yards per carry for an entire season?
Well, no, Ohio State hasn't done that. They were close. They were in
Yeah.
the sixes or low sixes
Mhm.
with like Braxton Miller and Carlos Hyde. But I did go back and look, and the reason I'm going with this one is last year Ohio State gave up 5 yards per pass attempt. Now that was way low, and they've not done
Mhm.
anything. That's not expected to happen again. But if Ohio State is averaging 6 yards per carry, I think they can eke that one out. Now they did do it in 2019 is the only time in the last 15 years, that's how far I went back, that they did it. They averaged like 5.53 yards per rush and gave up like 5.49 yards per pass, basically. So but last year they only averaged like 4.2 yards per carry, and we know they're going to do better than that.
Mhm.
I think they're going to be around 6. Can they get under that 6? They may be better than 6, the way Carson Hinsman was talking yesterday, but I think it's going to be close. And since it doesn't normally happen, and happened by probably about 17 total yards in 2019, I think this is sufficiently bold. And you already took your finger off the checker when you said you'd
Mhm.
allow it.
I will allow it. That feels like a 5
Bold.
yards per 5 yards per pass attempt. I mean, they're facing some not great passing attacks this year for sure, but to get anywhere in the 5 yards per attempt range, that's a very good day defensively. You might have a 3 or a 4 somewhere, but you also need to run. Rushing for 6 yards a carry that's a monster number. So yeah, this is one where I have to give it to you just on pure creativity on this one. I think I have to give this one to you. So
Right? I
all
appreciate
right,
it.
okay. So let's see. How about this, Tony?
Hmm.
Ohio State last year got 75 yards total on punt returns over the course of the entire season. 17 returns, 75 yards. They have not had double that, 150, since 2019. I'm going to say they have at least 150 yards of punt returns this year, double what they had last year, and the highest total since at least 2019. This is not an average. This is just a pure
Hmm.
total yardage number.
And the funny thing is, I'm going to allow it because we're talking kind of the Ryan Day era here. But you go back before then, and they did it every stinking year. Like in 2014, they had 450 yards of punt returns, but it's not been part of the game. Now, I do think they will get back to it, but hey, they haven't done it. So, I do believe in Brandon. So I think there's some there. And so I'm going to allow this just because it's been so few and far between the last few years.
Okay, good. That's good. I think it feels like that's a little bit of a trend, not quite the same kind of a trend that you've seen in kickoff return yardage dropping, where that's been kind of sport wide, but punt returns it feels like that's another thing where it just is just not as much of a thing as it used to be. So
Is this did we put a game number on this one, or is this regular season or all
I
season?
I was going to do this for all season
Okay,
unless
that's
you
fine. No,
you agreed to
it's
it. So Tony,
I,
do I need to explain the checkers thing to you, or you good? Good.
yeah, no, don't worry. I've got a 10-pointer that's gonna just secure the victory in all of this. So don't you worry. I Here's one that I had. I'm not gonna go with unless I have to, unless you end up taking one of mine. No, I'm just going to save that one because I don't want to give it to you and then have to need it and say I didn't want it and convince you not to allow me to have it. Make me feel bad. Tom, I'm going to take this one before you get a chance to. Over the last 3 seasons, Ohio State has 6 total games of 220.
Okay, I'm gonna just scroll back in the
Mhm.
comments to Wayne Taylor, who he says the 220 is a given this year. So try and quote move the chains on that one. So Tony, go ahead, give us your cowardly prediction. I was steering clear of this even before Wayne's admonition that this was obviously nonsensical.
Well,
But go ahead by all means.
Wayne has already sent the super chat in, so I can do what I want. Um, I was going to say six games of 220 this year. Now, the most they have had, they've only had more than 5 once since 2010 in a season. In 2014, the year they won a national championship, they had 10 games of 220. Now, I'm not that bold. I'm just saying 6 this year. Now, how do you feel about that?
Here's what I was thinking. I considered this. I considered a 220, but the one I was considering was Ohio State averages 220. If you'd like to take that one, I will allow you that one.
Well, here's they've done this before, though. I mean, this is something they did in 2019 and 2020. So that I didn't even bother with that because I didn't think it was very bold. But I mean, if you would rather me go with the average of 220, then 6 times being 220, then I would go ahead and accept that. And I'm just looking real quick to make sure I'm correct on this because I believe I am. But if you would rather me go with 220 as an average, I can do that. As you furiously type away to see if I'm correct or which would be the better odds for you. I'll take either one you want me to take. So in 220 in 2020 with Justin Fields, he was the guy that could do that. The running game was better. The passing game was good enough. And so I feel like the 220, I'll do whichever one you want. And I think I've lost Tom, which is fine. Then we will just agree to this. Are you? I can't hear you, bud.
How about?
Gotcha.
Okay, good. Yes, sorry. I'm just sitting here politely and listening to you, and then all of a sudden it said your microphone was unplugged, and it was like, no, it wasn't. It's right here. So whatever you said over the last 2 minutes or so, allow me to assure you, it was instantly bold. Frankly, I'm a little insulted you would try to pull that over on the audience. What about me? I understand how you feel about me. The audience, though, Tony, I think they deserve better. So what was the last thing I was hearing? You were explaining why the 220 thing, they had done it before, but
well, no, I was just saying I believe they averaged 220 in 2019 and 2020. So I'm okay if you want to give me that one instead of the 6 games of 220.
Yes, let's do that. But we are talking about the entire season, mind you. So this is not a first 12 game. So over the course of okay, good. Yeah, I will. I think that's a good one. All right. That will also allow us to drag it out over the course of the whole season. I think 6 is very. I think 6 is very likely to happen this year, just based on the number of games. But yeah, this will letting it go the whole time. I think that's a good one. All right, so let's see. All right, Tony, we've got I have kept the listeners waiting long enough. We got to talk punting, Tony. The record for longest punt in Ohio State history is 87 yards by Carl Edwards in 1983. That is probably one of the more unbreakable records in the Ohio State record book. I do not expect that record to be broken. However, the longest punt in the 21st century by a Buckeye is 76 yards by A.J. Trapasso in 2005. I am going to say that Nick McLarty has a punt of 76 yards or longer this year.
I'm going to allow this for any number of reasons. First, Australian punter. You're just going to have to give him a free pass on a lot of things. Something that hasn't happened, doesn't normally happen, a long punt like that. Shoot, any kind of punt over 70 yards is almost a sure go ahead and make it happen. So we're saying 76 yards. Is that what you said?
76 yards. Yes, that is the longest punt of the 21st century by A.J. Trapasso in 2005.
At least 76 yards. Okay. In the air. No, okay.
No,
Where
no,
from
no.
start to stop, 76 yards. Okay, I will allow that, but it cannot come against Iowa because that would be offensive and frankly disrespectful. It's a show off. It's a show off move.
Yeah, that's like when there's, you fund foreign fighters overseas, and then it comes, the war comes home. Yeah, that kind of blowback. Iowa getting a 76-yard punt against them would be real. I mean, that would be one of the most galling examples of that, perhaps. But yes, it would still count.
But you know what would happen immediately? Old Tampering Kirk Ferentz is going to be on the phone at halftime. Like what the very play after that happens, he's going to be on the phone trying to get a hold of Nick McClarty's agent. Like there would be some tampering there if he sees a 76-yard punt happen in his face. Jordan Kapler is not convinced Tom deserves internet. Our issues are fine right now. It's all fixed. Got the hamster back on the wheel. We're good. So now I've got to go to another. I've got another 1-pointer, and I feel like these are all at least worth 2 or 3. But the thing is, these are bold predictions. They're not supposed to happen.
Correct.
That's why I don't want people eventually like cutting up this video as we're predicting all of these things. Like, look at these people think this is going to happen. This is not supposed to happen. These are bold predictions. These are things that are not supposed to happen, but we boldly go where no others will go before Tom. That is Star Trek. So I'm going to go with this because I think it's my last Jeremiah Smith one. And the fact that I'm only calling for 1 point for this is ridiculous, but it's a harmless game that we play. We don't need to put too much weight on it and too much angst and hate and anger and hate. Jeremiah Smith will score touchdowns from the 1 to 10 yard line, the 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, 41 to 50, 51 to 60, 61 to 70 this year. That's 7 touchdowns. The freshman record, as we know, is 8. I'm saying he gets 1 touchdown from at least from each of those lengths this year.
Yeah, I cannot agree to that one fast enough. Absolutely.
2
now,
points.
If you want 2 points, the one from 10 to 20 or 11 to 20 has to come from 17 yards. If you want 2 points.
But I already have a 2-pointer.
Oh, well then, sounds like it's not a problem. Great, 1 point it is.
How about or the 10 to 20 has to come from the 17, the 30 to 40 has to come from the 34, and we make it a 3-pointer. And I don't know that you can say no to that.
I don't know that I can say no to that. I was just gonna offer to take your 2-pointer, including the 17-yarder, and make that my 2-pointer since you took my 2-pointer.
You want my 2-pointer of Will Howard as a Heisman finalist?
No, I was going to take the one you just did.
Okay. Oh,
including the 17-yarder, and I will make that my 2-pointer.
Okay, you can have it.
Wow, a season for giving. I feel like there should be a Lexus with a big bow on it in your driveway right now. What a friendly start to this season. I'm a little scared is probably not the right word, but uncomfortable, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And then I would advise people, don't get used to this. This right now, it's Friday. The season is almost upon us. We're all happy. 'Tis the season, but it won't be 'tis the season for long. Just so you know. So your 2-pointers, Jeremiah Smith will score touchdowns from all of those lengths, and including one from the 17-yard line.
Correct.
All right. I like that one because it was mostly mine. I've just I don't even know whose turn it is anymore. I've got one 1-pointer left. You've got two 1-pointers left. So go ahead.
Well, then it sounds like it's my turn. All right, let's see. How about this? Julian Sayin finishes no lower than second on the team in passing completions, attempts, yards, and touchdowns.
Okay. So you're saying he's going to finish at least second, no
lower than second.
I mean, I'll go with
in
that.
each of those 4 categories.
Yeah. So Julian Sayin finishes second or first. I'll even allow the first, Tom. So
that's what no lower than second means.
I understand. Yes. I'm just for the crowd. So that was completions, yards, touchdowns. What was it?
Completions, attempts, yards, and touchdowns.
And interceptions. We'll leave that alone. All right, that's a pretty good one.
Tony, we're just gonna read the first 2 words of this one from Wayne. He says, Tom, bold, ... Wow. Ellipses, Tony. I don't know what's in there. That's not for me to guess.
It's like when we were kids and reading teacher would tell us, you don't have to read what's in the parentheses of the textbooks like out loud when we're all reading out loud, and we would just all ignore the parentheses. And one day the new teacher came in. She's like, "Why don't you people read the parentheses?" And it's like we were told like 4 years ago by one teacher not to read it out loud, and nobody else has ever corrected us. So, but yes, Tom, bold for once. Wow, I would agree. There's a first time for everything. Time for giving, time for change, a time to turn, as the birds say. My turn here, and I'm gonna switch it up and go with this 1-pointer. At least 2 shutouts for the Ohio State defense in the regular season, which is something they have not done since 2013. The last time they had 2 shutouts in the same season was 2014, but one of those was 59-0 to Wisconsin. I'm going to lock it into the regular season. First time since 2013. And that's just 1 point.
That's a good one. And I saw someone in our chat, I think it might have been Terry Slusher. Yes, there it is. 2 shutout games this year was Terry prediction. We'll limiting this to the regular season. I don't think that materially changes the likelihood of this happening, because the likelihood is if you're going to get this, it's going to be at least one of them's going to happen in the non-conference portion of the schedule, and then Iowa's on the schedule or someone like that. But picking a shutout is a lot like picking a team to go undefeated, where there's so many different things that can go wrong that you think about how many terrible teams Ohio State has played over the years and has not, Rutgers has been on the schedule every year since they joined the Big Ten, and they've only shut them out, I think, once or twice. I mean, it really has not happened very often. So, yeah, I think picking 2 shutouts in the regular season is inherently a bold prediction, yes.
Okay. I still have one more 1-pointer, but so do you. So go ahead.
All right. So let's see. So in 2023, the Buckeyes had 7 passing plays of 50-plus yards. They had 6 in 2022, 12 in 2021, 2 in 2020, 6 in 2019, 7 in 2018, 8 in 2017, 2 in 2016. That's as far back as I went. So they've only been over 7 passing plays of 50-plus yards once since at least 2016, and I didn't go back further than that. I'm going to say they have 9 this season. They have only done that once since 2016. 9 passing plays of 50-plus yards.
9 passing plays. And so they did, you said they had 7 last year.
7 last year, 6 in 2022. They had 12 in 2021. That's the only time they've been over 8 since 2016.
Well, and I don't, that 2021 season is such an outlier that it's hard to be like, well, they did it. They did the passing in 2021. So, but
Tony, I love your spirit. Keep that spirit. We're gonna hold you to that later on. Go ahead.
See, now you've already admitted
keep about how bold I am. Go ahead.
Now I know that you know that I know that you know, and I'm just looking through. Like they had 50 and 20, or they had they had 10 in 2014, but that was 15 games. So I'm gonna let's go 10, Tom. I need 10 to match that 2014 team.
Okay, 10 this season, no restriction on number of games. Okay, that's fine.
Right. So at least 10 passing plays of 50 yards. I mean, that should happen, but it doesn't normally. So, okay, I'm good with that. My last 1-pointer, and I do not like it. And I've tried to I thought I replaced this already like twice, but apparently I haven't. The high number of tackles for loss for an Ohio State linebacker since post Ryan Shazier. is 16 and a half. Darren Lee did it in 2014, and Malik Harrison did it in 2019. So I'm going with Sonny Styles, 17 tackles for loss, which is, it should be a 2 or 3 pointer. But again, I'm going with one because this is what I have to do. And I think that's entirely too bold. That's why I've been trying to avoid it, but it still just sticks on my list. So I'm going to go 17 tackles for loss for Sonny Styles. And as we know, tackle for loss and sack bold predictions are dumb and they don't work out. But I've got all season to get this. I mean, he could have 8 in one game.
He could have 8 in one game. And if you'd like to predict that he has 8 in
No.
one game, I will give you 3 points for that. I will very generously give you 3 points for that. I might give you 8 points for that. This is one where when you look at the span of time that we're talking about and and that it hasn't happened really since then. And you're also pegging this to a specific player. I think I absolutely have to allow this. So yes, that is a good one. I like it.
I don't think it's going to happen. I just see Aaron Taylor here commenting, Sonny with 17 tackles for loss. Wowie. Like these are one of these things where I don't want all of these things taken out of context because, again, we don't expect many of these things to happen. I do expect some of these things to happen. Just Tom doesn't realize that yet. But not all of these things are going to happen. But that's where I am. So, all right, are we both? Do we both have our 2 pointers in? I think we do.
We do.
Both.
So we're through with ones, and we're through with twos. Correct?
Okay.
I believe.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So, I'll go first since I started out. I'll go with my first 3-pointer, my only 3-pointer. And it's something that has only been done, I believe, 5 times in Ohio State history, and only, I think, 2 or 3 times in the last 20 years.
Okay, so just let's just remember that Tony's 3-pointer is something that's been done 5 times in Ohio State history. So something that has never been done in Ohio State history would be more bold than that for 3 points. Okay, go ahead, Tony. By all means, finish. Go ahead.
Well,
finish your thought.
That's not true at all. A receiver will have a 200-yard game this year.
Yeah, that's when was the last time? Well, Jackson Smith-Njigba in the Rose Bowl.
He did it twice in 2021.
Twice that year.
But again, what did I say about 2021?
Yes, but for 3 points, I think I'm going to need you to narrow it down to 1 receiver.
How about 2?
So
that's going to leave out one of the starters.
If you want 2 points for it, that's fine.
No.
No, is that not well? You see, you didn't read what was in the parentheses there, which is what about 2 parentheses points for this prediction? But you, being a product of the Henry County Public Schools, were taught not to read what was in the parentheses. I, not being from Henry County, know that you, of course, do. So it's canon, Tony. We talked about it earlier in the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna stand firm on this 200 and see if you cave.
What can I do to get you into this car today, Tony? How about this? You can have 1 player for 200 yards receiving, or you can have 2 players for 220 yards receiving.
No, here's the thing, though. Okay, so this has been done 6 times in Ohio State history. 5 of those guys did go 220 or more.
So this seems like really we're not changing anything about this.
Let me finish. No, we're not. David Boston went 217 against Michigan in 1998. But so only 1 guy has done it in the last 19 years. Santonio Holmes did it in 2004. So this is not something we're talking twice in the last 270 games. And you're not going to allow me to have the random one person. It could be G. Scott. It could be Travion Henderson.
I'll tell you what, if one of your picks is G. Scott, I will allow you to hit 2. How about that? Or I will allow you, since all 6 of them apparently did 217 or higher, and 17 is a number of great significance in this program.
Yeah, gosh darn it.
2 people with 217 yards or more per game.
Well, how about just any player with 217 yards? Now we've raised the number and we've included 17. So I believe I have just gotten the handle on the bat there.
I don't care for it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't care for it for 3 points. I'm going to allow it. but I don't care for it. All
That's
right,
the
Tony.
perfect kind.
So we're moving from something that has happened 5 times in Ohio State program history to something that has never happened in Ohio State program history. Tony, Ohio State this season has 4 players who each achieve 1,000 yards rushing or 1,000 yards receiving. They've only gotten close to this once in program history, and that was, Tony, 2021. But of course, we've established you got to throw out 2021. That's obviously the year that doesn't count. I went back through the last decade. I was shocked at how not even close they've gotten any year other than 2021. In 2021, they had Jackson from the Jig 1,600 yards receiving. Garrett Wilson had 1,058. Chris Olave had 936, but of course did not play in the Rose Bowl that year. And Trevian Newton had 1,248. So very well could have gotten there in 2021, but they didn't. And I think also one of the things that makes this a little bit of a different situation from 2021 is the years that they pile up huge passing stats are the years that they have real bad defenses. And I am not expecting a bad defense this year. They put huge pass numbers in 2018. The defense was hot garbage. They put up huge pass numbers in 2021. The defense was hot garbage. 2022, they didn't get close to this. 2023, they didn't get close to this. The defense is sort of working against me here, which is sort of a little bit, paradoxical in a way. But 4 players with 1,000 yards rushing and or receiving this season.
Yeah, the defense is really working against you by getting a whole bunch of 3 and outs and getting the ball back to the offense. Now, here's my issue with this, and I believe there will be two 1,000-yard rushers. I've stated that. I believe there will be 2 1,000-yard receivers and possibly 3. So this is one of those where I just said it's the worst kind, it's the best kind. It doesn't happen. It has not happened. I expect it to happen. It's very much I can't find a way out of this one other than I feel nobody cares. Nobody cares how I feel, how I think about what is going to happen here. And I do believe, I've said it many times, 2 1,000-yard rushers. I already said Jeremiah Smith, 1,000 yards receiving. I've said Emeka Egbuka is going to leave Ohio State as the all-time leading receiver and yardage and catches. He needs 1,174 yards to do that. So I'm already saying that there's going to be at least 4 1,000-yard people. And Carnell Tate shouldn't be the forgotten man here because he's going to be he will have games where he dominates. So I feel like 5 is the true boldest, but it's like a step beyond, So I'm going to allow this, knowing that 5 by definition is bolder, but also it's probably more of a 4 to 5 point, and we don't have that. So we've got to shoehorn your stinky little 2-point bold prediction to the 3-point slot here. We've just got to make it work, unfortunately. So I will allow it.
That's good. 5 is clinically insane. There's no way they get to 5. That would be a 10-pointer to have that, because realistically, you're going to win a bunch of these games by enough points that these guys are not playing second halves. They're going to manage snaps for these guys. And really, how many total yards across 5 guys? Very likely. So you got to stop here. You hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Okay.
Keep working through it. I will say again, if we keep using this 16-game metric, which is dangerous, but that's 62.5 yards per game to hit 1,000. So I think there's a very much a pathway to have 5 guys doing it, but predicting that to happen is, yes, as Wayne says, that's a 5-alarm bold there. So now those are all of our 3-pointers, our 2-pointers, our 1-pointers. Tom, do you have a 10-pointer down? Because I do.
Why don't you go first? I can come with something.
Okay. All right.
You know what? I've gone. Okay. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
Yeah, no, I'll go first. Here's something that hasn't happened since 1995. And if I say the 1995 Nebraska team, do you know what my bold prediction now is?
They are going to lose a game to Arizona State next year that they shouldn't, or so is it that the 1995 Nebraska team has historically been considered one of, if not the greatest in the history of the sport. They had no games closer than 14 points. Was it something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm just sticking with Ohio State wins every game by double digits. Nebraska was the last team to do that, but they did won every game by at least 2 touchdowns, which if the kids today could not even understand how unstoppable, and Nebraska back then was just like, it's not fair. It was not fair to the rest of the nation that Nebraska had a football program because nobody else had a chance for a few years there. So yes, I believe it was a 45-31 win over Washington State, if I recall correctly, because I was looking at it earlier today. And so yes, every game by double digits, not been done since the greatest college football team of all time, arguably.
No one has won every game by double digits since then.
Correct. At least no national championship, no national champions.
Well, in order to do this, you have to win every game, so you would be national champion. So, correct. Yeah, I think I have to allow this. I really feel like spiritually we should say 14 points because that's what Nebraska did. But
no, I don't want to do that.
How about this?
What?
Since 17 is such a sacred number to the show, they have to win every game by 17 points. Your thoughts? Oh, you can't get out of it now. No. I think that's a good one. I think that's a really good one. I like that. I would love for it to be 14, but I understand double digits. If they win every game by double digits, our audience will be so happy that they will give you credit regardless. So it's fine. We'll allow that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking, Tony, at special team stats, as I am wont to do from time to time. Do you know how many kicks and punts Ohio State blocked last season?
No, I'll say 1.
According to our friends at cfbstats.com, the answer is 0. Do you know how many they blocked in 2022?
6.
2. They blocked 2. 1 in 2020, 1 in 2021, 0 in 2020. So for the last 4 seasons combined, they've blocked 3 punts and kicks, according to cfbstats.com. Tony, I am going to predict that they block 6 punts or kicks this year, punts and or kicks this year for 10 points. Double the last 4 years combined. And I will remind you, they had a special teams coordinator who they no longer officially have a special teams coordinator and staff. So obviously, this is going to be a much more difficult thing to do without the benefit of a full-time special teams coordinator. So Tony, really, this should really be worth 100 points when you think about it. I am going to be grateful for 10.
All right. Well, I'm just looking through here just to see if 6 has been done anytime in the past decade plus. And it has not. Like 3 and 4 is topped it out. 2012. The last time Ohio State went undefeated, they had 6 blocked kicks or punts. Now, what I would say, Tom, I'm going to allow this. However, at least half of those have to be punts. I don't want no stinking, 4 extra points blocked and boom, boom, 10 points. Like I need at least 3 of those to be blocked punts.
Tony, once again, my microphone muted itself or unplugged itself somehow. I don't know. There must be a short somewhere. So once again, I'm sure whatever you said was cruel and unnecessary.
I said
just bark twice if you're in.
The last time Ohio State blocked 6 punts or kicks was in 2012. And so okay. It is achievable. But I'm also saying is I'm going to allow this, but 3 of these 6 blocked kicks or punts have to be punts.
3 blocked punts is a tremendous amount.
10 points, Tom.
I will put the punt stipulation on there if you increase yours to 14-point margin of victory.
11 points. No, I don't even want to go above 10. I did not take my finger off that checker. No, Tom, 3 blocked punts in a season is not a record number. I mean, this is something that happens against Akron routinely, and they play Akron.
Three blocked punts in one game. That would, I'm pretty sure, be a record. I feel like there was a team that got a bunch of punts blocked in a game. There was Troy or someone like that a year or two ago. Like they couldn't, maybe it was Louisiana Tech. There was some team that just could not get punts off for whatever reason in one game. That's neither here nor there, Tony. That's fine. I will allow you to put this difficult stipulation upon me. It's fine. That's fine. We'll make that. We do have a super chat from Glasswing Butterfly for Kevin's Pickle Fun. Kevin's not even here. I see people thanking Kevin in the comments. He's not even here today. Tony's ketchup addiction and Tom's internet upgrade. I don't know what's wrong with my internet today. I apologize. The speed test came back fine earlier, so I don't know what the problem is. But thank you. We appreciate that. Do we want to run through a couple of the good ones from viewers who are on here?
Absolutely.
Okay, I've been starring some of these. It's Just Me. Tim says Jeremiah Smith wins the Heisman Trophy.
That's a 10-pointer, right? I mean, that's certainly more than 3 for a freshman to win it. Never been done. Receiver to win it, that's rarely done. So you add those 2 things together. I think it's more than a 3. Maybe we need a 5-pointer in there.
Yeah, it's probably like a 5. It feels 10. Yeah, it's between a 3 and a 10 for sure.
Yeah.
How about this one from Jordan Kapler? Outbolding Tony here. My bold prediction is Ohio State will have 3 shutouts this season. Extra spicy boldness when one of those games is Michigan. There's not been a shutout in that series since 1993, and before that, going off the top of my head, I think 1978. There was like or 76. One of those Woody games right at the end of the Woody's tenure, they lost 22-0, I think. But yeah, you've had one in the last 45 years or so. So yeah, that is extra. That might be that's in that 5-ish range probably too, and maybe 10 because you're throwing the Michigan thing in there.
Yeah, I was looking at 3 shutouts as one of my bold predictions. The last time they did it was 2009, and then 1996 and 1980. The last time they did 4, 1977.
And nothing since then. So here's another one from Gahan. 2 punts, okay, and 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown. I had not a kickoff return for a touchdown since 2010. The Jordan Hall against Michigan. Boy, this is another one where you want 10 points for this. I will absolutely give you 10 points for this.
It is kind of funny that neither one of us touched the kickoff return touchdown, where it's they have a renewed focus there maybe, but I've been kind of dismissive of that by them putting Carnell Tate back there. It's just not my idea of a returner, but I've been told on the message board, the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby Columbus, that they like what they're seeing there. So maybe there's something there, but I mean, they're due. They're certainly due, but neither one of us were convinced that we needed to go there for a kickoff return touchdown, but we do reserve the right at any given week to pull it out.
And that's something where I think next year, if the NFL's new kickoff rule comes to college, I think I would be 100% on board with saying 2 kickoff return for touchdown. Right now, I just don't see that changing necessarily that quickly. Wayne Taylor says Latham with 5 picks, Sonny with 8 sacks. Now you had Sonny with 16.5 tackles for loss, so 8 sacks. I mean, that 8 sacks for a linebacker would be, you're probably going back to at least Darren Lee, probably, in terms of 8 sacks in a season. Well, five picks for the strong safety, that would be pretty spicy too.
Well, and I mean, I'm just scrolling through, like the last time an inside linebacker had 8 sacks for Ohio State is probably maybe Raekwon McMillan or Ryan Shazier, because it's just not something that they do a lot. And so That would be a lot. I am interested to see how much blitzing they do with Sonny. Like, I think a lot of his tackles for loss are just going to come from reading and reacting. But how much blitzing are they going to do? We know Jim Knowles has said he wants to use the Wills more as an aggressive attacking force. So we'll see there. But Darren Lee in 2014, 7.5 sacks. And yeah, you got to go all the way back to my last one here, 2011. Like Ryan Shazier didn't even get there. So 8 is a lot. Good luck with that.
Here's a question from David Greenshield. When was the last time Ohio State had 2,000-yard rushers on one team? I believe that was 2013, right? Did Braxton Miller do it and Carlos Hyde? I believe that's the answer there.
And the last time they did it with 2 running backs, I believe it is 77 or so with Archie and Pete Johnson. Pete Johnson had I think 1,003 yards.
That would have been probably 75, I believe, was the last year for those guys.
Right.
It's just me. Tim says most turnovers forced in 10 years.
That's bold.
That is bold. They have really not forced a ton of turnovers. That's been a topic of conversation during these interviews, that they have just not forced as many turnovers as you'd expect from a defense that has been as good as they have been. I don't know. I kind of would love to know what that number is, but just based on the historical trend of the fact that
keep talking and I'll get it.
Yeah, the fact that number has sort of continuously been dropping over the years, it feels like you're really working not only against some pretty good defenses, but also against just the overall historical trend. You go back to Malik, too many Maliks, Tony, and it's not Malik Hartford. It's Malik Hooker. There we go. Malik Hooker. You go back to that year, he had 7 interceptions, something like that season. They have not had that many interceptions as a team, I think, in some recent years, or not very many more than that. What's this? I'm going to guess this number is 20, something like that. The most turnovers forced in the last 10 years. Have you gotten there yet?
Yeah, no, I have. So you said they forced 11 last year. In 2014, the year they won a national championship, probably no relation to no correlation here. 33 forced turnovers in 15 games. And that's by far the most. 2016, they had 27. 2019, they had 25. So 33 is a heck of a lot. But again, that would be kind of outside of the 10 years if we're counting this coming year. So maybe in the last decade, could they do 27?
Well,
from 2024 to 2015, that 10-year span.
Yeah. All right. You're playing some lawyer ball here. The 10 seasons previous to this one, it counts. But either way, if you want to include that 2014, I'll give you 10 points for that one. If you want to make it 27, we'll have a 3 versus 5 kind of conversation. Mika Hanna says Emeka Ibuka throws a touchdown to J.J. Smith.
Well, now this was when I did my 50 for 50, one of my bold predictions, just regular predictions, but they turned bold because of the nature of the business. But I had somebody other than a quarterback throwing a touchdown. And I think we talked about it on one of the morning shows as well. So the specificity, like that's 10 points. You've got 2 different people in there and doing something that doesn't happen. So Mika, we will jot that one down. And if this happens, you will be rewarded 10 points from us, but you're going to have to keep scoring your own.
100%. Yes.
Yes.
And the last non-quarterback to throw a touchdown pass for Ohio State, was it Evan Spencer to Michael Thomas in the Sugar Bowl? I believe that might be it.
Yeah, I believe so.
So you're talking about 10 years. Where have you gone, Michael Wiley? Terry Slusher says Caleb Downs will score 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 kick return. I know they've talked about putting him back there. I will believe he's back there on kick returns when I see it. Caleb Downs scoring 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I could absolutely see that. And I'll give you a point, maybe 2 for that. But to include 1 being a kick return, I think that bumps that up quite a bit.
Yeah, I do wonder if we set the Tom, if I set the Caleb Downs touchdowns at 0.5, you're going to need some odds there. But would you need a lot? Like, would you need like plus 350, plus 5, something like that to decide that way?
If you want to give me plus 350 on that, I will take over 0.5 with a plus 350 and not think twice about it. That's that's closer to an even money thing to me than you'd think there.
Especially with the running back.
Yep. You know, if you're in a conversation about an award late in the season and they're playing Indiana the week before Michigan, and you have a chance to, if he has done something that put himself in the Heisman conversation, you could see them getting cute and doing something like that on offense if the game's sort of getting out of hand. Mika says Jack Sawyer has at least 2 forced fumbles. This one feels much less. It feels like we're really exploring both ends of the scale here, where it's naming 2 people to do something that they hasn't done in 10 years. And then Jack Sawyer having 2 forced fumbles feels like, in an individual game, yes, that would be worth a couple points, but over the course of a season, how likely is it to you that Jack Sawyer, give me a percentage that Jack Sawyer forces 2 fumbles this year? That feels like north of 80% to me.
Well, he did it last year. So I'm with you on that one. So the fact that he's already done it, if we try to sneak this past each other for a 1-pointer, this would not go well. This would turn an hour show into an hour-and-a-half show.
Another one from Mika. And again, now we're on the opposite end of the scale here again. Sam Williams-Dixon has a reverse pop pass for a touchdown.
So we're talking basically like 30, a jet sweep here.
A jet sweep. Yeah. I read this as he throws a touchdown pass off of this, and was thinking, wow, that would be even more bold. But yeah, okay, just as a the old Paris Campbell play, basically. Yeah, that's fine. I think this isn't bad because he's not going to score that many touchdowns this year because he's the 4th guy. And the 4th guy, generally, you figure, 3 touchdowns, maybe. So, yeah, the specificity here probably helps.
Yeah, and also this could be a sneaky way for a running back to throw a touchdown as well if they do some wildcat in there.
Mm-hmm. Here's a great one, and I think we might have talked about this at some point. Terry Slusher says all 5 quarterbacks score at least 1 touchdown this year. This is when I think we talked about this, and I think I said I thought I saw it happening because I think they're going to try and get all of these guys into games, and you're going to try and play them. But also, this requires a lot of guys playing, and what's going to mess with this is when you get down to like the 5th guy, the 4th guy, the 5th guy, they're playing a drive or 2 during the most garbage of garbage time. They're up 63-3 against Akron with 4 minutes left in the game, and they bring a quarterback in as the 5th guy. That guy is generally just handing off and they're taking a knee or whatever. I can certainly see a path to this happening, but this is pretty bold. So is this 2 points? It's not 10 points bold, but is it 2 points?
Well, here's the thing, because I remember this is one of the 50 for 50 bold predictions that I had, and I've been meaning to put them all together just so I'd have them on hand, and this would be a good opportunity for that because I went through all the way to about like 1950 something to see the last time 4 Ohio State quarterbacks had accounted for a touchdown. It even accounted for a touchdown, and I don't believe there are anything in like the modern era, and maybe that's why I can't. Maybe it was 5, and so that 5 scoring, or if we're even saying accounting, I think is very, very bold. But you got 5 scholarship quarterbacks. It's not outlandish to say each of them is going to find the end zone in some form or fashion. So I would probably be okay with 3 points on this one.
Here's one from Jim James. Not a bold prediction, just kind of amusing. The thing I like about Tony is our hair looks about the same. That's tremendous.
I love compliments.
His profile picture looks like the most interesting man in the world from those old beer commercials. So his hairline, very impressive. May not be an actual photo. Here's another good one from Mika. Calvin Simpson Hunt has an interception for a touchdown.
That's one where that's a 2 or 3 pointer by the week. Like if we were to say, that's got to be a 3-pointer. Honestly, one, you're picking a pick 6 and you're picking somebody specific to do it. But over the course of the season, is that a 3-pointer or is that a 2-pointer? Because it dissipates a little. but
probably
I think it's a
2.
good one. Yeah.
It's a good one because you're only going to have 2, maybe 3 guys who have that happen during the course of a typical season, and he's not the guy who's the most likely to have one where he's not going to be the guy who gets the most snaps. He's kind of in that second tier of guys where you've got the starters and you kind of got Jermaine Matthews, and then there's a little bit of a gap, and then he's down in that next tier below that, where that's going to be, second half of games. Now, they have
Jermaine
had
Matthews.
they have had guys who have gotten those in sort of the late, I think about Cam Martinez having a pick 6, or I think Ryan Watts maybe had a pick 6, and maybe
Jermaine Matthews last year against Western Kentucky.
Jermaine Matthews against Western Kentucky, and Craig Young against probably Maryland. I think there were a couple, but where it's 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter of a game that's been functionally over for 90 minutes, and you get one there. So I could absolutely see this happening, but the specificity of this one guy having it happen, that's a good one.
Rajay Burns back in 2016.
Oh yeah. Rajay Burns against Bowling Green. Yep. And then and that was it. That's like Sam McGuffey's Ohio State Michigan career. It was like, well, there was that one play, and then that was it.
I like
Super chat from contributor to the Hugh. Will Howard has more rushing touchdowns than one of the top 2 running backs.
That's more than 1 point, because Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins are gonna score quite a few touchdowns, and we know when Travion is healthy, he scores a lot of touchdowns. Same with Quinshon Judkins, but there are times when Travion Henderson is not healthy, and we know that the quarterback run in the red zone is an effective thing, and he could very, very well be a touchdown vulture in there. So I like this. I think I don't know. I would probably give it 2 points, but the thing is, he may be the most consistent person on the field. Like he's always going to be in the game in the red zone, whereas Travion Henderson may be out. Quinshon Judkins may be out. Like he's going to be the most consistent force in there. So he will have more opportunities, but that's a pretty good one. I like that one.
Well, I think this is one where you read it and think, oh, that would probably be a really good season for Ohio State. And it's like, well, I think ways this would not be a good thing for Ohio State, where someone gets hurt, and so you finish with 2 rushing touchdowns, and then Howard only has 5 or whatever, and so it's not necessarily a good thing. So this is one. I like it. It's bold, but you could also see it happening. I don't know if this happening would be a good thing or a bad thing for Ohio State. Let's move to this one, Tony. This might be the spiciest of all. Darcy Draft, Kyle McCord leads Syracuse to playoffs. Which playoffs specifically? Can you clarify that? Because and this is not a shot at Kyle McCord. This is more season 1 for a new coaching staff. Fran Brown, the former Georgia secondary coach, is now in head coach at Syracuse. I don't think that's a team that's probably going to have a great season. I can go to my Pick 6 preview magazine and see where our buddy Brett Ciancia has them picked. I don't think it was anywhere near the top of the league. This is, if this happens,
10,
man, 10 at least. But yeah, I think that's that's not particularly likely.
I do think they could impact the playoffs based on an upset in the ACC.
That is possible, yes. Mika Hanna, James Peoples over 500 yards. I think that's quite possible. Sam Williams-Dixon over 300 yards. That's getting a little zesty, I think.
Well, and I've said it before. I think James Peoples is probably going to get at least 100 carries like Dallin Hayden did in 2022. And if he gets 100 carries, he's going to have over 600 yards or so. So I think that one's a good one. But Sam Williams-Dixon, if he is the 4th guy and do they want James Peoples running out the clock in the blowouts? He's going to do some of that, but how often is it the next guy down that is doing some of that as well? So could there be one of those games where Sam Williams-Dixon has 120 yards against Western Michigan or something because he's playing all of the fourth quarter and he has a 60-yarder or something like that, a DeMario McCall Rutgers type of situation, or a Bowling Green game? So I think 300, I would probably I'd be okay giving this a 1, but yeah, I think there's enough boldness there.
Yeah, there's enough boldness there. It's one where you could see it happening, but not necessarily. Sort of related here, Wayne wants to know, how many mercy rule games do you feel Ohio State has this year? I mean, how are we defining mercy rule? 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say 4 in
4
the
touchdowns?
in the third quarter. Is that, like that sort of thing?
4 in the third quarter. Okay, so I think you can rule out, I think, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, probably Iowa, probably Nebraska. Anything else beyond that, I think, is certainly in play. And I think there's going to be at least one where, it's, why is this game so close? So I'm going to say 6.
Yeah, I think you can have one of these games where it's like, why is it this close? And another one, like, I didn't expect it to be this out of hand.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
see every year. So, yeah, I'm good with that number. But don't worry about that one. Worry about the one that'll sneak up on you, like the Iowas and the Purdue's, even though these games are at home for Ohio State.
Jordan Kapler says, I just need Tom to yell at someone off screen to get off the phone to explain his internet issues. Yeah, I don't know, man. Sorry. It's I blame Spectrum and being, them being from Philadelphia. How those Philadelphia entities are.
Can't you just hold the antenna closer to the window?
There you go. See, this is what I get for living in the lovely sticks outside of Columbus. Jay Patel says, another bold prediction needed. When does Michigan's penalties drop this season? Which week?
They're I'm trying to figure out, like, when all of this is going to relate to the game week in November, and whether they can get this stuff handed out or drop down now, and then the replies come out in 3 months, right in line with the Ohio State game. But if the NCAA wanted to be a jerk about it, and we know they don't, they just want to be fair. They just want everybody to be fair on the same level. It's about sportsmanship. It's about doing things the right way. It's about not trying to cheat the game, but also cheat the student athletes. Your own student athletes. You're cheating them the opportunity to know that they've earned something, because now they don't know that. That is all thrown in doubt because of what has gone on. And the NCAA doesn't want that. They want everything to be on the up and up. They want everything to be true. They know a lot of these players, they're not going pro in sports. They're going pro in something other than sports. And if you go pro in sports, you can go on and do more things and win other championships. If you're not going pro in something other in sports, then you're going to go into accounting, and it's going to be like, hey, what did you do in college? Well, we cheated. And it's like, well, now you can't be an accountant. So the NCAA is trying to keep things all on a level. And so when will they, I don't know, Tom, when would be the classiest time for the NCAA? Is it the Friday before the Fresno State game?
Next week, in the lead up to week 1, if Jim Harbaugh was actually still coming back as was initially planned, 100% that's when it would have happened. They would have rushed it out the door to get it out there the Thursday before the start of the season. But now, it could be any time between now and the the end of the season, or even later than that. If you're going to do the 90-day thing, if you put one out now, then Michigan's 90 days to respond is the week before the Ohio State game. That would be about 90 days from now. So it's a little more than 90 days at the moment. But if you put it out next week, it would be about 90 days before the Ohio State game. So, if you were trying to inflict maximum narrative damage, that is what you would do. Or if that just happens to be when the report's done, that would also be what you would do. Here's a good one. Doug Shepard says, Rashid Cisse, freshman walk-on running back from West Muskingum, gets a rushing touchdown. That's a good one. He's probably maybe in the conversation to be the 5th running back, maybe. And so I like that one.
Well, I'm just looking back. We know TC Caffey scored a touchdown in 2022 as a walk-on. Quickly scrolling to see when was the last time somebody other than TC Caffey walked on and rushed for a touchdown. And you may have to go back to the Jim Tressel years for that one, because It's not something that happens a lot, but we've seen it happen recently. So I'm not going to say it won't. I like it. It's interesting, especially because they do just have 4 guys that they have on scholarship, and I'm all the way back to 2013. Don't see any there. 20, so that's sufficiently bold. Is that a 2-pointer, Tom?
I would say at least that's at least a 2-pointer, but you could certainly see it happening.
Yeah.
Bold prediction from Odysseus: Tony will enjoy a Chicago hot dog at Wrigley this year. I think that's 0 points, and may God have mercy on your soul in terms of boldness.
Well, here's the thing: we're kind of we don't know what we're going to get served at Wrigley, so there is some level of we don't know. Maybe there won't be a hot dog there. Maybe because ain't none of us going down to the concession stand unless we have to. Like we don't like to mingle and mix with the people. We're in the media suites, which, although I guess at Wrigley is maybe not all that super special. We'll see. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. But if it doesn't happen at Wrigley, I'm sure it will happen somewhere in Chicago, even if it's on the way back from what we stopped for Chicago hot dogs somewhere in last year on a road trip, and I don't believe it was in Illinois. I can't even.
No,
remember.
that was we stopped at Portillo's in
Yes.
Northwest Indiana in whatever Dexter Lawrence, who was the former Ohio State offensive lineman, walk on.
Larimore.
Dexter Larimore, that's right. That is, once again, my brain is like 80% there. I'm like, no, Dexter Lawrence did not play for Ohio State. Who is he? Who am I thinking of? Mickey Hanna says Dorian Williams, number 84, has 2 touchdowns, walk-on wide receiver. That feels probably, I mean, you want more than 10 points for that. I'll award you more than 10 points for that one.
What about Mylan Graham scoring twice?
Mylan Graham scoring twice, I think, is maybe a 1-pointer. I mean, I don't know how many times the 6th or 7th or whatever wide receiver gets 2, but that feels like we've heard enough positive things about him that he's in that conversation now. Contributor to the Hugh says Will Howard will be a first-round pick. He was projected as what, sort of like a mid-round, like 4th-ish round, 5th-round pick after last season. That would be quite a step forward. Obviously, would be a very good sign for the Ohio State season. I don't know how many other quarterbacks are in the draft this year. I haven't looked at that often.
Really bad class. So
then maybe
you can move up. Like you have the opportunity to move up, and he has the size, he has the athleticism, the accuracy you'd think is going to improve. So, I mean, that's the standard at Ohio State right now. It's the standard under Ryan Day. So you should, and I think that's one of the reasons he came to Ohio State. Now, whether that happens or not, I had somebody ask me, I think it was on the Mark Rogers show, saying like, if Will Howard is a day 2 pick, Ohio State wins the national championship. I'm like, I don't think that the two are necessarily related, because Will Howard could play like a first rounder. And the example I used was Chris Olave breaking off a route at the end of the Clemson game. Like those things matter. So he can play like a first rounder and Ohio State can still not win a national championship. And he can play like a 4th rounder and Ohio State can win the national championship. Ask Stetson Bennett in Georgia.
And contributor to Hugh says Penix was a first-round pick, LOL, to which I would remind you the Falcons now have 2 quarterbacks, which doesn't necessarily preclude them from taking another first-round quarterback next year. But the Falcons are presumably out of the quarterback market for next year. And we're going to wrap this up, Tony, with a nice transition to our next live show. Drowsy Dragon says, any chance Georgia Tech defeats Florida State? I know I saw someone on Twitter talking about a lot of sharp money coming in on Georgia Tech, that one might be a little closer than you might think. Move the line a couple points towards the Yellow Jackets. So, yeah, it's possible. I wouldn't say I expect it, but it feels like that one might be more of a 1-2 score game than Florida State just completely boat racing them. Got to remember, Tony, do you remember who Florida State's quarterback is this year?
DJ Uiagalelei. So I think there's a chance. Now you say the smart money and the sharps, like that, they're just saying they think Florida State's only going to win by 10, like rather than necessarily Georgia Tech is going to win it. But I do think that there's a chance they could win it. They've got some pieces and they've got to fight. They beat Miami last year. We all saw that. And if you can beat Miami, you can beat anybody. I was looking at the weather. There's some concerns that the weather might be bad, but it's looking like not too rainy and maybe not rainy at all. So that would certainly help Florida State, I think.
So yeah, so that and you know, as far as I remember, Georgia Tech beat Miami. I mean, just really cleanly beat them, had them the whole time. Yeah, that felt
Never
like
doubt.
that. But and we will be. Boy, I've got to fix my. I've got some stuff to fix apparently between now and tomorrow afternoon. But tomorrow afternoon, Tony and I are planning to do a live show to celebrate the start of week 0, kind of mid-afternoon, figure 3:30 or so ballpark time. We will be doing the live show to talk about that Florida State, Georgia Tech game, preview some of the other stuff that's coming up later in the day, and probably talk a bunch about this Ohio State season. So you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified when we do that live show, because the time may shuffle around a little bit depending on what's actually happening during some of those games.
Yep, and depending on Tom's internet now, I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just everybody else is doing it, so I wanted to jump in, and I didn't want to be left out. So thank you all for tuning in. That will do it. Of course, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com as always, and we'll probably see you tomorrow.